we hope to convince you about tonight. First, taking action on climate change is not only necessary, but is also beneficial to our community. Sorry, you're probably seeing the little messages that are popping up here. Okay. Again, taking action on climate change is not only necessary, but also beneficial to our community. Second, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Many of our neighboring communities are already benefiting from climate change action. And finally, now is the time to take that most important first step. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm having trouble advancing. There we go. The presentation in your packet has quite a few more details than our presentation tonight in the interest of time. For example, we're not going to take your time tonight to talk about global consequences of climate change. We trust you're familiar with the science on that, and we've provided some good resources in your packet. But we do want to share with you some of the anticipated consequences on a more local level. Last year, a Northwest news agency called Investigate West contracted with a Northwest planning firm, Headwaters Economics, to conduct a study on the vulnerability of Oregon and Washington cities and towns to climate change. They defined vulnerability as the risk of experiencing wildfire, flooding, or extreme heat, plus the prevalence of poverty, rental housing, racial minorities, and elderly. According to that study released in February of this year, residents of 152 cities and towns in the Pacific Northwest are particularly vulnerable to climate-fueled wildfires. Residents of 60 other communities are most susceptible to floods, and people living in 75 towns are most likely to suffer and even die from heat waves. Many of these cities and towns are at risk for 2 out of these 3 climate change disasters. But 2 communities were singled out as being at risk for all 3. And those communities are Grand Coulee, Washington, and the Dalles, Oregon. In addition, the Dalles also has a higher than average prevalence of the compounding socioeconomic factors. Whether we as a community take action on climate change or whether we ignore it, there will be costs. Some of the costs of taking action will include research and development, implementation and subsidizing new technologies, and additional staff. But not taking action may have even greater costs, both economic and human well-being costs. We hope you'll notice an important difference between these 2 columns. The cost of taking action is really much more of an investment in our community's future. And these investments have the potential to make our community more resilient to the impacts of climate change and save us money. And who doesn't like to save money? Here's just one example. Electric cars are now almost the same cost as comparable gas-powered cars. Electric trucks in 2022 are expected to be essentially the same price as gas or diesel-powered trucks, but the cost of the vehicle itself is only part of the picture. Having served on the city's budget committee this past year, I went back to that great big budget book, and I added up the various departments' line items for gas, oil, diesel, and lubricants. Our total budget for running a gas-powered fleet of vehicles is over $70,000 per year. And that cost is not going to go down. In addition to saving money on fuel, oil changes, and other maintenance costs associated with gas-powered vehicles, there are other economic benefits. Powering our vehicles with electricity from solar and wind generation right here in Oregon and Washington will help keep energy spending in the region and provide great family wage jobs to folks who may very well choose to live in our community. More local solar and wind projects will also help make us more resilient to climate change disasters that could impact the grid. We encourage you to take a look at the presentation in your packet where we've included more details about how communities can save money by taking climate change action. While this may seem like an overwhelming task, I'd like to recognize that the city has very recently shown that you can lead our community with some big and forward thinking, like the recent water agreement. We're asking you tonight to think big like that for our community's future with respect to climate change. And we have some great things going on around us that we can use as inspiration to help us get started. Hood River City and County collaborated on their Hood River Energy Plan adopted in 2018 with the goals of reducing fossil fuel use, producing more local energy, and creating a $25 million revolving loan fund to help finance renewable energy projects. Mosier has a slew of things going on, including 60% funding for their Mosier Center, which will be a triple net zero building meeting the highest energy standards. They have full funding for 2 electric vehicle charging stations, a pedestrian plaza, and a bike hub. White Salmon passed a climate emergency resolution in March of this year to guide their planning going forward. And the community of Lisle will be voting on a similar resolution at their upcoming December meeting. There are so many projects possible, some that will save us money, some that will make us more resilient to climate change, some that will make our community healthier and more livable, and some that will provide new jobs. The inaction of governments around the world and the recent Global Climate Change Summit demonstrate that it's really hard for big governments to make meaningful changes, and we can't wait for them to come to our rescue. Imagine if, instead, local governments took the lead on this by finding ways to save money as they move away from fossil fuels. And what if those changes benefited their communities in a variety of other ways? And what if corporations also took responsibility, as many are doing? This is now a much more hopeful picture, and it's within our reach. And one more thing, earlier I mentioned that now is the time to take those important first steps. The bipartisan infrastructure bill, which was recently signed into law, includes billions of dollars for clean energy related projects. Those dollars are most likely going to go to communities that know what they want and have plans in the works. We could be one of those communities. So now we come to the main point of our presentation, what we're asking from you. Our recommendation is based on what other communities with successful climate action plans have done. First, we recommend that you direct staff to come up with a proposal for convening a task force or a community climate action committee. Ideally, this would happen in collaboration with other community stakeholders, and the goal of that task force would be to develop a community climate action plan, one that will mitigate the impacts of climate change, help the community adapt to the impacts of climate change, and reduce our reliance on fossil fuel energy. Second, we recommend the hiring of a staff person, possibly shared by other stakeholders, to coordinate and help lead this task force. In 2016, Hood River hired a rare, I think most of you know what a rare intern is with the AmeriCorps program. They hired a rare intern to work with their community task force in the creation of the Hood River Energy Plan. And that person was Marla Harvey, who now serves as MCED's energy coordinator. In other communities, such a position has more than paid for itself with energy savings. Third, we ask that as you work on your 2040 visioning process, please prioritize a vision that includes moving our community to one that is actively addressing climate change as an opportunity to build a healthier, more vibrant, and more resilient community for us all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present our proposal about addressing climate change in our community. We are eager to hear your response, and we are eager to join forces in moving our community forward. And now we ask that you share with us your comments and questions. Thank you.
Okay, comments and questions. Anybody on the City Council have a question or a comment? I had a question. I believe it was on the 6th page. It's entitled "The Local Situation Mapping Climate Vulnerability."
Mm-hmm.
The third, well, the bullet point at the bottom that says additionally, the Dalles has a higher than average prevalence of the additional socioeconomic risk factors. Could you be more specific as to what those might be?
Yeah, they were also on that slide. So those are the prevalence of poverty, rental housing, racial minorities, and elderly. So those factors, those socioeconomic factors compound the other factors, the risk of wildfire, flooding, and extreme heat.
Okay, I heard you mention that. I didn't relate that to the narrative on here. So thank you for that clarification. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Richardson.
I don't know that I have a question, just a brief comment. I just want to say thank you, Debbie and other folks for putting this together. There are a few names on the packet. Thanks for that. And I appreciate that you had a message there, not just of sort of need, wagging the finger at us that we need to do X, Y, and Z, but it's a message of hope and of opportunity for us to essentially get ahead of what might be increasing effects and come out sort of stronger or better for it. So I appreciate that. That sits well with me. I am inclined to ask how we could have staff take a look or come up with recommendations for convening a study and coming up with a plan. Maybe it's something we need to discuss during budget time in the next few months. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, perhaps you or Mr. Hunter or others who have a bit more experience could guide that, but I'm inclined to want to support that.
Well, I'll just, since you mentioned me, if the city council was interested in proceeding with anything that Ms. Ferrer is recommending, I think she hit the nail on the head when the first step would be to form a task force, and we'd have to assign a staff person to staff the committee. But we can't do that, or really shouldn't do that, without the blessing of the city council. So I'm not sure that we need to wait for the budget process, which will be in the spring, or whether we can do it now and have it. If there is a task force, the task force could recommend that there be something in the budget for 22-23 that would help achieve their goals. I guess is the best way to put it. So I guess following up on Councilor Richardson, if the council was interested, we could direct the staff to come back with a plan to form a task force and assign a staff person, and maybe even adopt a mission or suggest a mission statement. Councilor Long.
Yeah, I was just going to say that through the League of Oregon Cities, at a couple of their annual meetings, I have looked into some of the options that are out there. And so there is a lot of work that we can follow up on and not necessarily have to create things from scratch. And I know we have a lot going on with our different projects, community visioning and hiring of a new city manager. But I think if our community partners are interested, I think it would be worthwhile to have at least one counselor and some other members from other, like county commission, for example, meet together and look at some of the work that's already being done and see if there's anything that we could quickly replicate and move into our budget process. That way we would really only need a staff person who could help us by reporting back to staff, and we wouldn't necessarily make decisions. We would come back, of course, to full council, but I just think there's a lot of things out there, but I don't think that this is something that we have to start from scratch and make it a big project, but I think it will be ongoing. Just like when we talked about the water issue with Google, there's so many ways that we can do some little things throughout the city and throughout our budget process.
you suggesting that the staff do some of that research that you were alluding to?
Actually, what I'm suggesting is that although you assign a staff person, that you allow the committee members to do some of that legwork, because your staff is seems to me to be very overworked at the moment. I don't know if they might disagree with that, but I feel like we have a lot of major things that we put onto them. And this is another major thing, but I think that those of us who have a passion for this, I think we should step up as leaders.
I've never known a staff member to deny that they're overworked. So, okay. Any other counselor have a recommendation or a comment? I think we're looking for some direction here. Is there any objection to actually the forming of the task force? I suppose would be under the mayor's jurisdiction. Councilor Long, is that what you would envision?
Yes, and I was also looking for some consensus from the rest of council, and I saw Councilor Runyon raise his hand.
I missed that. Councilor Runyon?
I just want to say that all those great thoughts are there, but it does say right on our agenda that if a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you said that in your remarks, and that's probably the way to go and see what our interim city manager feels would be a good path to follow. I think Councilor Long mentioned that as well. So that's my thought. And as far as forming a task committee of some sort tonight, I don't have all the tools in front of me to know how we would do that. I heard a good suggestion by Councilor Long, but let's have our interim city manager take a look at those things and see what he can come back with.
Councilor Long, is that okay with you?
That would be acceptable to me. However, in the past, we actually have given consensus at a meeting, and I think it's worth it to move forward because we're into the holiday seasons. And if we're going to do something before budget time, it's now, because we're already starting to do budgets behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think I'm looking for a consensus of the city council to proceed with what Councilor Runyon and Councilor Long have suggested. That is, ask our interim city manager to look into the consult with Ms. Ferrer and come up with a plan.
There you go. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes, for me.
I will support that moving forward.
Okay.
Forming a consensus, yes, I approve. And moving forward with Daniel Hunter as leading this effort.
Okay. Well, actually coordinating the effort.
Coordinating, let's say
might be
coordinating the effort.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, I just want to get clarification that the plan is for me to work with Debbie and possibly Mayor Mays on a task force that the mayor will then bring back to council for consent to form the task force, and possibly have a staff member assigned to that task force, as well as any elected officials that the mayor would like. Is that correct?
I think your summary is pretty accurate. Anybody else?
Yes, that's my understanding as well.
Okay. Any other comments or suggestions or questions?
Thank you.
Ms. Ferrer, that okay with you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't, would anybody in the audience, I know there's probably some people here in the audience that might want to weigh in on this subject. I would ask you to be brief and please don't be repetitive. Anybody in the audience like to address this issue? Okay, thank you all. Oh, Mayor Arlene Burns from Mosier. Welcome, Arlene.
Thank you so much. It's nice to attend your meetings instead of run my own. I just wanted to reiterate what Debbie has mentioned and how important it is. And in Mosier, we really have been trying to take one step forward and look at how we can be prepared for the effects of climate change, and also do our part to not make it worse. And one thing, for example, that she mentioned, if you do have a plan, you are able to catch funding that's coming. And we were able to do this with regard to our wastewater treatment plant, where recently we got full funding to turn it into a tertiary treatment, which will eliminate the discharge into the Columbia River, and have a lot less fossil fuel being used to transport solids. So because we had kind of already gotten a consultant to work on this, once the ARP funding came, we sort of just put our hand up and it was enough to catch it. So one thing I really love about the Gorge is we're a bunch of different communities in one big community, and there are resources out there. I've been working with climate mayors, for example, that are cities all around the United States that are sharing resources of what we can do with regard to retrofitting our street lighting and implementing electric cars and vehicles. So I really applaud you and encourage you to take this with gusto. And I think having people in the community that are passionate and interested in what the solutions are, it makes a better future for all of us in the community. So thank you. And yeah, it's nice to see you all.
Thank you, Mayor. John Nelson has his hand up.
Yes.
Did you unmute, John?
Yes. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the counselors for all the work they do and all the hours that they put into their job here, helping the governance of the city of the Dalles. So thank you for that, counselors. I just have a couple of suggestions that I've learned. Some of the boards and commissions that I'm on have been doing strategic planning for the future. And I thought there's a couple of good ideas that came out of those that might be relevant to what Debbie is asking of you, and to which I see that you are going to take action, which makes me very happy. So the first is the idea to have a cohesive climate strategy. First, to make an assessment of all the things that the city now is doing, that they think they're on the road to doing that now. So all the things that you can check off in your box that says, you know what, we're already working on those things. And so after you've done that, and you kind of have an idea of what is ongoing, everybody has that awareness, then you look at the blind spots. Where are you weak in your strategy? Where could you either improve, build on, or nothing's happening there? So that's one idea. And then I have one other idea in terms of communication. So it's important to have stakeholders, to have community members involved, to have other city agencies like the parks and the county commissioners and the Port of the Dalles. All of these agencies can be potential collaborators, so that you're not doing all of that work on your own. And so when you're having those relationships, usually they're transactional. We can get these things done. But I think it's also important to have a relational focus, so that you're creating goodwill and good working relationships with these collaborators, and you learn a little bit about each other in the process, and you form relationships so that these things are sustainable. You have a working relationship with these agencies, and you set the groundwork for that right from the get-go. So those are my two kind of ads that you might pay attention to.
Thank you, John.
Welcome.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I think we have some direction. And Debbie, once again, thank you very much for coming and for your presentation. Okay, item 6, audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Up to 5 minutes per person will be allowed. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council for up to 5 minutes on any item that is not on the agenda?
Excuse me, Mayor Mays. Shelly Campbell had her hand up and I didn't get her unmuted in time.
Shelly Campbell, go ahead, please.
You need to unmute. Now can you? There you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Shelly Campbell with North Central Public Health District. And I just wanted to say that we certainly support this work of climate change. It's one of the focuses that public health is working on. We know that climate change is a public health initiative and a concern. And we really want to be able to work with this task force and make sure that all of us, as mentioned before, are working together in the community to address this. And there's a lot of initiatives around clean water and around where you work, live, and play, and making sure all those environments are addressed, and so that we can have a healthy community and reduce the footprint of climate change and what it's happening to our community. So again, just wanted to know, we're supportive, and we know that there's some funding coming down from the state that will also support this work. And we would like to be a partner in that and support the work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, back to item 6. Anybody like to address the city council for up to 5 minutes on any item not on the agenda? John Frederick.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Please
John
go
Frederick,
ahead.
614 West 7th Place in the Dells. I have a concern that not only locally, but in our country, we've lost balance. I find it disturbing that some people can have views and express them openly and publicly, yet others cannot without their views coming under attack and being simply dismissed. I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in limited government. I believe our local, state, and federal bodies and bureaucratic agencies are out of control in areas of spending, regulation, and overreach. I question when someone attempts to communicate or speaks with these government bodies, are they truly listening to really fully understand what that person's saying? Are they just listening to respond, or only interested in hearing when their own views and words are being repeated? Many people simply don't get involved to speak up because when they do speak up, they feel their input is being dismissed or feel intimidated when they do. I hope everybody really thinks about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the city council? I don't see any hands raised. Izetta, do you?
I do not.
Okay, last call. Okay, item 7 is interim city manager report. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So City Council, the note that I sent you all last Friday reviewing what I had gone through last week and work I was doing. One of the items on there was on the ARPA funds list that I spoke with the mayor about today and got clarification on one issue of confusion, which was 150,000, which is exactly what Councilor Long emailed me earlier this evening about. So that I got clarification on that. I just wanted to let you know. The other item on my report is received a request from the Dallas Main Street for up to $20,000 in emergency or in the economic recovery funding, similar to what we did with St. Vincent's. They've had a hard time in getting volunteers, which is kind of a subset of difficulty employers are having getting employees currently. And not only that, but they've gone through a change at executive director and have an entirely new board. And I met with the current director, Tori Davis, and went over quite a few things. She's looking forward to coming to council sometime in January. I believe she's already made arrangements with city clerk to give a presentation to council in January. The ask is for up to $20,000 to help them essentially get through winter. They do have funds remaining for that they have not expended for the tour, for the boat tours and riding with pamphlets and booklets and everything for the folks that come off the boats. They don't want to expend that and then face no funding when the boats get back in the spring. So we're just asking, or they're asking for up to $20,000, and I'm inclined to give it to them unless council has disagreement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunter. Councilor Long?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of concerns about that for a couple reasons. And I'm not saying, I need more information. For one thing, I feel like for economic purposes, we need to look at all of the Dalles, not just downtown. The other concerns that I have is that in the past, when I have been responsible for giving money to different organizations that are struggling, it usually doesn't have a very good outcome because they're asking for money because they're having trouble. And other organizations like the Chamber, they still have to come up with their own volunteers. They're not able to use economic recovery funds to pay for staff. And I certainly would have an objection to them using the boat funds, which are dedicated to that purpose, for anything else. So I don't know if that was just a misspeak when you said they hope not to use it, but they, in my opinion, they can't use it for that. And I haven't had a chance to talk with Tori yet, but she did schedule a time to talk with me next month. But I would definitely need to see some kind of itemized budget and intentions for the use of those funds. And then I'd also need to know that there's some kind of accountability and some kind of measurements as to what's been achieved. And also that those equal amounts of funding are available to other businesses that are not downtown through some other mechanism.
Thank you, Councilor Long. And addressing a couple of your concerns, part of the reason for her coming to council in January is to inform you on what they're doing. The Chamber of Commerce is slated to get $30,000 from the ARPA funds. Some of the financial aid that's been provided either from the state or from the federal government, it's my understanding, those are for-profit businesses. So nonprofits were not able to participate in any of those programs. So while this may be bailing out Main Street for the coming year, and they could end up, in dire straits next year, I think the same thing could be said of just about any nonprofit in town if someone donates money to them or if the city decides to give them money. So
this money is specifically to keep Main Street as a nonprofit afloat, not to help businesses downtown?
it is, well, that's what Main Street does, is to help downtown businesses. And it's doing that through programs and events and promotion of downtown businesses, which it has not been able to do because it cannot get volunteers, or has had difficulty getting volunteers. Part of this funding is to help them do those events so that they can bring in their own money. And I had part of my conversation with Main Street was, at least in their previous councils, was for them to at some point become self-sufficient. and that's why their funding had been diminished over time, at least from the city.
It makes a big difference to me if this is money for staffing in order to do events in the hope that they make their own money and become profitable, or if it's money dedicated to the expenses that events incur in order to earn more money. And that, like I said, I think you're asking for money approval now, but you're not going to come and talk to us until January. And what I'm saying is I need more before I say yes.
Okay.
When is Ms. Davis is going to be at our January council meeting, the first?
I don't know if it's the first or the second meeting.
Okay. And Councilor Long, when are you meeting with Ms. Davis? Before that, right?
Yeah, in December. But again, before city council gives anybody any money, we need to see it. I mean, we need to see what the actual request is, not just can they have $20,000?
Any other member of the council want to weigh in?
Mayor Mays, I'm scheduled to meet with Victoria first week of January.
Okay. Is there any objection to holding off on giving the money until we hear from Ms. Davis in January?
I have no objection.
Okay, any other counselor have any opinions? Okay, why don't we hold
Mr.
off on
Mayor,
that?
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor,
Councilor Runyon.
I have a meeting, I believe next week, next Tuesday with Ms. Davis, and I have many of the same questions that Councilor Long has. I have those same questions for the subject we were on previously as well, before we go forward with anything. So I'll be meeting with her next week and sharing my thoughts as best I can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to items. Are you done, Mr. Hunter?
I am, thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 is council reports, and I see Councilor Runyon, you're first.
I am? Okay.
Yes.
Well, my report is thank you to the community. As the current president of the Veterans Memorial Committee for the Mid-Columbia, we were, in charge and co-sponsored with the Chamber of Commerce. But the Veterans Committee has by and large been the volunteers and the footwork on the ground with a little help from the Kiwanis on setting up the parade. The Veterans Parade this year, after a 2-year absence, was a tremendous success. The rain quit just before the staging began and started in full at the end of the parade, which I thought was a real nice thing to have happen. And it was well attended, good crowds out on 6th Street and downtown. And I'm not sure the actual number of units, but I'm thinking it was in the neighborhood of 14 or 15. And as far as individual units, and some of those units had many other contributors within their units. So it was a pretty lengthy parade and well done. So thanks to Linda Glandon, who was our chair from the Veterans Memorial Committee of the parade. And thank you to the community and to the Chamber of Commerce.
And thank you for all your efforts you do for veterans, Councilor Runyon. Councilor Richardson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, except to say good job to Councilor Runyon and the other volunteers for that event. I don't have a report tonight.
Councilor Randall.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Councilor McLaughlin.
On Tuesday, November 16th, I attended an airport commission meeting, 7:00 a.m. Fuel sales exceeded 250,000 gallons, and they're not even to year end. That's incredible. No unexpected budget items, and everything seems to be running smoothly. Urban renewal was canceled for Tuesday, November 16th. I completed a ride along with Sergeant Simmons from the Dallas Police Force, and which was illuminating. I spent 2 hours. And in working with Officer Simmons, Sergeant Simmons, and with our legal department, I would like to address a strategy to reduce shopping cart theft. Saturday, this last Saturday, 107 carts were returned to the businesses. And in the past 2 months, I would say that figure is probably approaching about 200 shopping carts. It seems like our supply is non-ending. So it's not sustainable. So we must address this problem in the near future. I'm not saying now, but we'll take a look at that when our plate becomes a little less full. Along with the Mayor Mays this morning, well, actually this afternoon, I visited Dirt Huggers operation in Dowsport. I was very impressed with the operation. There's a request or looking at investigating a food waste disposal program similar to Hood River, where we take food source and what we do is we send it not to the landfill, but recycle it. And it makes good sense. And that's working with the Dow's Disposal and working with Jim Winterbottom there. I was very encouraged. I continue to answer questions from local residents concerning the Google vote that we took several weeks ago. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Long?
Oh, yes. So my other things have already been mentioned, so I won't repeat. But I did want to comment that the interim city manager, Hunter, had made a nice shout out to Jorge Barragan during his email update to city council and also the city staff managers. And so I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that that he had done 2 Spanish versions recently for us, the promotional video for the Visioning Project, and also helped out apparently with our police chief recruitment. And so I very much appreciate that. That was one of the council goals this year, is to do more outreach in Spanish. And one of the things that I had also emailed Mr. Hunter about is that I think it may be time, if we don't have someone on staff who can do the translation, that we actually either contract it out or look with an eye toward having someone on staff who can do that for us, so that, because that really is a professional service. And I don't think we should always be looking for volunteers to do that for us. And I think it is an investment in something we identified as a key factor for us this year. So I'd like to give that some thought. Thank you.
Thank you. The city manager usually has the report on the agenda. I don't see it, but I will call on Mr. Kara. Mr. Kara, as our city attorney, do you have anything you'd like to comment on or address the council?
Thank you, Mayor Mays. Nope, not tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, item number 9A is a general ordinance adding the total maximum daily load implementation plan to volume 2 of the background documents of our comprehensive plan. This is a time for we're having a public hearing to receive testimony about the ordinance. I will open the public hearing first and then ask for a staff report. Following the staff report, I will call for testimony for support of the issue, followed by testimony in opposition to the issue. At the conclusion of the testimony, the public hearing will be closed and the matter turned over to the city council for deliberation and a decision. And I will also be asking if anyone on the council would like the ordinance read in full. So with that, I'm now opening the public hearing.
Thank you, Honorable. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mayor Mays and City Councilors. As stated by the Mayor, this public hearing is to consider General Ordinance 21-1386, which will be adding the total maximum daily load implementation plan to Volume 2 background documents to our the Dallas Comprehensive Plan. A little background on this project. In 2009, the Department of Environmental Quality, also known as DEQ, completed a comprehensive study of streams in the region around the Dalles. As a result of this study, the city of the Dalles was identified as a designated management area or agency with responsibilities for water quality management in portions of the Miles Creek drainage area, including the creation of an implementation plan. The DEQ is required under the Federal Clean Water Act of Oregon Administrative Rules to develop total maximum daily loads for water bodies that fail to meet these state water quality standards. A number of streams in the Miles Creek subbasin failed to meet these water quality standards for temperature. As kind of implied, the Dalles does not currently have an adopted the total maximum daily load implementation plan. The city developed and received approval from DEQ for our implementation plan to achieve these load allocations that are established. The plan incorporates existing management strategies as well as assessments of ways that city operations can be modified to better meet these load allocations. If approved tonight, this as an ancillary document to the comp plan, these code amendments will be started soon. Those code amendments that will be coming to you at a later date will address such items as education about repair and protection, restoration and river shading and or channel condition on city-owned property, consideration of repair and protection ordinances, as well as low impact development building practices. The main goal of the city of the Dalles total maximum daily load implementation plan is to reduce all stream pollutants to comply with the requirements of the Clean Water Act. On September 16th, 2021, the City of the Dalles Planning Commission conducted their public hearing regarding these proposed addition of this total maximum daily load implementation plan to our volume 2 of the comp plan and voted unanimously to recommend approval to the City Council. The budget implications, for this, there are none. And council alternatives, staff is recommending that the council move to adopt General Ordinance 21-1386, revising the Dalles Comprehensive Plan Volume 2 background documents to include letter K, Middle Columbia-Hood, Miles Creek, Subbasin, Total Maximum Daily Load Implementation Plan 2021. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. Now is the time of the public hearing when I will ask for testimony in support of the ordinance. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify in support of this ordinance? Anybody? Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify in opposition to the ordinance? Okay. Last call for any testimony. Okay, I'm now going to close the public hearing. I will now ask the city council to deliberate. Is there any comments or questions on the part of the city council? Would anybody on the city council like to have the ordinance read in full?
No.
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 A resounding no. I would now like to ask the city clerk to read title only.
General Ordinance number 21-1386, an ordinance adding the total maximum daily load implementation plan to volume 2 background documents of the Dalles Comprehensive Use Plan.
Any more discussion or questions on the part of the council? All those in favor of the ordinance, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
McLaughlin, aye.
Long I.
Motion.
Is there no discussion?
I thought I asked for discussion. Would you like to discuss, Councilor Runyon?
I would just say that this is one of those boxes to check of things that we are already doing regarding the previous subject on the agenda tonight. So there you go. There's one. Good find there, John Nelson. I appreciate that.
Am I assuming that you're voting yes on this, Councilor Runyon?
Are we voting now after discussion? Yes, I vote yes.
Okay, I believe everybody else has
I need a
voted.
motion.
Oh,
I'll make the motion.
There you go.
I'll move to adopt General Ordinance number 21-1386, 1386, revising the Dalles Comprehensive Plan, Volume 2, background documents to include the following: K, Middle Columbia Hood, Miles Creek Subbasin, Total Maximum Daily Load Implementation Plan 2021.
By
McLaughlin
title
will,
only.
By title only.
McLaughlin will second.
It's been moved by Counselor Long and seconded by Counselor McLaughlin to adopt the ordinance by title only. Is there any more discussion?
No, I'm just glad we're in the right order now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the ordinance, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Long, aye.
McLaughlin,
Opposed?
aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Hurt.
Thank you.
Good work.
Okay, item 10A is a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for this fiscal year. And I believe our interim city manager, Mr. Hunter, will be taking this on. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. City Council Resolution 21029, adopting supplemental budget for fiscal year 21-22 and making appropriations authorizing expenditures from and within the general fund of the city of the Dalles. Resolutions for supplemental budgets, if they are equal to or greater than 10% of the funds, requires a public hearing. These do not. And notice was sent for publication to Columbia Gorge News and published November 10th. Resolution 21029 is for supplemental budget general fund to allocate $74,750 to the police department to fund the police department's accreditation project and funding through Oregon Accreditation Alliance grant. And staff's recommendation is to adopt resolution number 21029. And with that, I give it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Does anyone have any questions or comments of Mr. Hunter?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Long.
Yes, I just want to say that I think this is great for our community that we are going to receive some grant money to do this accreditation process. I think it's really going to be an asset for us. And thank you to whoever applied for it.
Anybody else? Anybody like to make a motion?
Counselor Runyon. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution adopting a supplemental budget for fiscal year 2021, 2022, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures from and within the general fund of the city of the Dalles adopted budget.
Is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Mayor.
It's been moved by Counselor Runyon and seconded by Counselor Richardson to adopt the resolution adopting a supplemental budget. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye or raising your
Aye.
hand.
Long, aye.
McLaughlin, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 10B is a resolution authorizing a loan from the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of council. As council will recall, the Dog River Pipeline Replacement Project is being funded from a variety of sources, which include city water utility rates and system development charges, a $1 million grant from the Oregon Water Resources Department, and a $4,030,000 loan from the Oregon Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. But as a condition to receiving those revolving loan fund dollars, the city must adopt a borrowing resolution, which would authorize the mayor to then sign the funding contract. In addition to this resolution, the city attorney will be providing a legal opinion to the Infrastructure Finance Authority about the legality of the loan being accepted. Attached tonight for council's consideration is resolution number 21030, authorizing acceptance of the loan. The contract for that loan is attached as Exhibit 1 to the resolution. Loan, as I mentioned, is for $4,030,000. $530,000 of that is forgivable and doesn't need to be paid back as long as we comply with all the terms of the loan. The specific terms of loan are 1% interest for a 30-year term, which are the most generous terms that are available through this program, and is certainly better than any bond that we would have been able to acquire. One of the conditions and one of the reasons that we qualified for these good terms is that our water utility rates are above the trigger requirement, meaning that our ratepayers are doing their part to pay for the project. If the city were to lower its water utility rates before the project was completed, our terms of our loan would change. The interest rate would increase to 1.7%, and $400,000 of the $530,000 of forgivable would have to be paid back. The annual payments on the loan, as with the 1% in 30 years, would be $139,000 a year. These monies are considered to be federal money, and as such, they come with the federal strings attached. That means that for the project, we have to pay the higher of federal or state prevailing wages for all the work associated with the project. Any iron, steel materials that are purchased have to be manufactured in the United States. In addition, we need to make good faith efforts to reach out and engage the services of disadvantaged business enterprises for the project where we can do so. It's anticipated that staff will be recommending a future amendment or revision to the financing agreement, and that's because the cost estimate for our project has increased significantly from the original $9 million that was available to us at the time we submitted the application. That $9 million was based largely on a cost estimate that was about 10 years old by the time we're getting around to implementing this. When we completed the 20% design for the project, the cost estimate was closer to $17 million. I believe there was a question earlier about whether it's appropriate for the contract to still reference the $9 million cost estimate, and the answer to that is yes, because that was the value that was used for all the financial analysis done by Infrastructure Finance Authority.
Thank you.
The good news that we have is now that we've completed 50% design, our cost for the project has actually dropped by about $2 million. And now we're looking at something closer to $15 million for a total project cost instead of 17 million that we thought was going to be the case a month and a half ago. The cost increase are generally associated with the inflation that's occurred since that original cost estimate. Staff is already working to allocate, or in addition to going back to the Infrastructure Finance Authority for additional funding, which we've already began those conversations with the entity, and we're encouraged by the response we're getting. They're telling us money is available. And when we originally went to the Infrastructure Finance Authority board, there was a lot of support for this project. And two of the members actually told us they were concerned we weren't asking for enough money. When we got updated cost estimates, please come back and talk to us again. So that was a good message to leave from that meeting with the board. In addition to bringing in or looking to bring in additional outside funding, we're looking to allocate any additional city funds that we have available to the project. Some of that's already been done with a supplemental budget the council approved on October 25th. That brought another $701,000 that were available in the water fund and allocated them for the Dog River project. And we're considering the opportunities that might be available for use of some of the ARPA funds that were previously allocated for projects that we subsequently found didn't qualify. So we'll be talking to the council about that in the near future. If we asked for another 5 million, which now I don't think we'll have to ask for that much, but if we did ask for another 5 and were awarded another $5 million in revolving loan fund, that would increase the repayable loan amount to $8.5 million and an annual payment of about $330,000. The budget allocation is that with the adoption of resolution number 21-030, The city would receive a $4,030,000 loan for the Dog River Pipeline Replacement Project. $530,000 of that loan would be forgiven. To repay the loan, the city would have annual payments of $139,000 for 30 years, and the city's projected water utility revenues are adequate to make those payments. That it's staff's recommendation that council move to adopt resolution number 21-030, authorizing a loan from the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund by entering into a financing contract with the Oregon Infrastructure Finance Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any questions or comments from the city council? Councilor Long.
Yes, if we have to increase the amount borrowed, will the projected water utility revenues cover that payment as well?
That'll be part of the analysis that has to be done with the additional application. So we have to demonstrate and do a pro forma and a projection of all of our future water utilities. Right now, with the information I have available to me, I'm going to say, yes, we could. And we wouldn't be able to get the additional funding unless we can demonstrate the ability to repay it. Right now, I believe that we can do that without a rate adjustment.
Okay, that was really where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the city council have a question or a comment? Councilor Richardson.
Dave, to your knowledge, are there any provisions in the federal funding that would prohibit us from repaying this early if we had money we didn't know what to do with, or just decided to get ambitious?
There are no penalties for early repayment on it.
Thanks.
I would, we get into, if we find ourselves in that situation, we have some existing debt already. These are the best terms we've got. We'd probably look at paying off some of the other debt that doesn't have penalties first.
Very good.
Anybody else? Okay, if there are no other comments, I'm looking for a motion.
Mayor Mays, I can make this motion. I move to adopt resolution number 21-030, authorizing a loan from the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund by entering into a financing contract with the Oregon Infrastructure Finance Authority.
Is there a second?
Councilor Runyon.
Second that.
I believe Councilor Runyon beat you to it. Councilor Randall, it's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin, seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the resolution authorizing the loan. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Long
McLaughlin,
aye.
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 And I.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
Well done.
Item 10C is a request to hire police officers to fill vacancies. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. Get to my paper. So City Council, as you know, we've had a kind of a long-term downturn in our police officer staffing, and given the current difficulty to fill, this recruitment's been open for quite some time. Looking to or asking you for authorization to hire police officers to fill the vacancies. You will note the staff recommendation and the number 2 are somewhat different. The staff recommendation, because we've only got this meeting and then one meeting in December, and are currently with two resignations that went out since this staff report went to you, or went to the city clerk. We're now down 5 officers. Given all of that, the staff recommendation would allow me to hire enough police officers to fill current vacancies. If you don't want to go that far, the motion number 2 would authorize us to hire the one that's currently been through background check and everything and is ready to go, and that is a lateral officer.
I believe Chief Worthy is with us as well. Chief, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for unmuting me. Yeah, I think the ability of the city to move quickly in these hires is really paramount in our success or failure in hiring officers. As you understand, it's a very tight marketplace, and qualified officers are going to be offered positions quickly. And if we are in a position where we can identify background and do all of the screening for new officers and then go ahead and make that hire, that's very advantageous for us as a city to lock in qualified candidates. So I appreciate the support in being able to move in a nimble fashion in making these hires. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions from the city council or comments?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Richardson.
Chief Worthy, what are the number of vacancies now? Is it 5? And what are the number of positions we have budgeted?
There's 18 budgeted police officer positions. There's 5 vacancies. We have a number in various stages of background check. And the one that was previously referenced is a lateral officer with over 20 years of experience who can start and add quick relief to our scheduling problems. Others would be new officers. As you recall, the city council graciously granted us a $10,000 lateral hiring bonus. And this is the only officer that has attracted so far. The balance of those applicants are all entry-level officers. And so they will require full academy training, full field training, and we're looking maybe as long as a year out, if all things go well, to get us back up to appropriate staffing. So it's not an overstatement to say that the police department's hurting for help and that our current officers are working long hours and taking a lot more calls and very diligently to keep this community safe. So yes, sir, it's 5. We have 1, and then we have others in the pipeline at various stages of completeness.
Well, we are certainly not over policed in my sense of things in the Dalles at this point, Mr. Mayor. So I would propose we need to move on this.
Councilor Randall.
Yes, Chief Worthy, I just have a question about the incentives. Besides the signing bonuses, have you seen the accreditation or the promise of or prospect of accreditation, any kind of incentive for officers to sign on with us?
No, sir, I can't say that I have. Of course, that's still months and months out. Best case scenario, it'll take us 6 months to get through the accreditation process. A more normal time frame would be a year. And so, of course, I intend to do it in 6 months. So no, that really hasn't attracted them. For entry-level officers, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to be having that high-level look at things. They're going to be looking at equipment and cars and salary and those sort of more immediate to me things. And the accreditation is more higher level thought as it pertains to the safety and professionalism of the whole department and our service to the community. So unfortunately, no, sir, I have not seen that. I would like to see that. That would be great if we could attract people through that route. I just have not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, Councilor Long?
Yeah, so a couple questions. So 5 out of 18 officers, that's 28%. Why do we have such a large number of people leaving?
That's a great question, and Councilor Long and members of the City Council. Individual officers are leaving for their own reasons. In some cases, it's for greater opportunity at larger departments. In other cases, it's for family reasons. You know, for example, a spouse might obtain employment in another city and require a move. Every officer that's left so far has had an exit interview, and none of them have, so far, to my knowledge, reported any problems within the department or the city. Wages do make a difference, but it's just a mix of factors, I think. And I think the city manager pro tem could back me up on that. It's some of this and it's some of that, and it's definitely a seller's market, so to speak. If you're a police officer, you can essentially go to work anywhere you like right now. because all communities are having these issues. If you want to go work in Central Oregon or at the coast or in the metro area, you can, and you can do it rapidly. And you can also achieve a lateral hiring bonus just about in almost every major city in Oregon. So I think those are some of the contributing factors. And this is something that we have to manage just as other agencies have to. And we're keenly aware of the need for us to locate good quality officers. And I've been unwilling to lower our standards. We have a certain standard and expectation in professionalism and aptitude and abilities of what we expect to see for police officers on this department. And we've passed on a few folks that have applied just because they didn't demonstrate our values as an agency and a city.
Okay. And then my second question is the staff recommendation, since it was slightly different than the second option. I just want to make sure, I kind of read it as the second option was somebody who's been through the background check, but the first one didn't say anything about hiring people after they've gone all the way through the background check. So I'm just confirming that if we give you permission to make the hires, that you're not going to do that before completing all of the steps. You're just wanting it so we don't have to come back to city council later. Correct?
That is correct, Councilor Long. We don't hire officers. We have to give them a tentative offer prior to giving them sending them through background check, but no one's going to be hired until they've received a clear background check, credit check, psychological evaluation, medical evaluation, everything that goes into the legally required checks and our own policies for hiring new police officers. Once they've been through all those successfully, then a final offer is made.
Okay, just double checking because of the wording. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor McLaughlin.
Mayor Mays, I just want to say that I appreciate Chief Worthy holding standards. In the long run, that's going to pay off, having a quality officers on the streets. My thinking is that we move quickly, and this is vital.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last few words.
I said I'm in favor of moving quickly, and I think this is vital.
Oh, vital.
Vital. V-I-T-A-L. V-I-T-A-L.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Councilor Runyon has something, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor Runyon.
I just wanted to ask Chief Worthy, you've mentioned the one lateral hire, which lateral is really the way to go. Obviously, if we can find those people, they get on the street quicker, as you described. And the bonus that went to will go eventually to that individual if he gets through all the rest of the findings and so forth. Is there additional money in the pool regarding bonuses for attracting additional lateral officers?
Yes, sir. If I understand your question correctly, do we have more money available for additional lateral hires? And the answer is yes. As we have been in a position where we were understaffed, all of those wages and benefits, all of that money that is in our budget to be spent on personnel is not being spent. And so every month that we go without a position filled, our budget's getting better by that amount. So we have plenty of money to pay lateral hiring bonuses. And by all means, if anybody on the council or on the call knows of a qualified candidate who's interested in coming to work here, please send them our direction.
Thank you very much. I knew that was the answer, but I just wanted to put on the public table. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a closing comment for me is I don't think I've ever known a time when being a police officer was more difficult than it is now. And I'm sure Chief Worthy, I speak for the rest of the city council when I ask you to please convey our appreciation for the job they're doing for our community.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other last comments or questions? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion on this, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Richardson.
I move to approve the city manager pro tem's request to hire police officer candidates to fill all current vacancies.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
It's been moved by Counselor Richardson and seconded by Counselor Long to approve the city manager pro tem's request. Any last comments? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Long eye.
McLaughlin, aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. The final item on the agenda is the reason we had the agenda amended. It's item 10D. You may recall, those of you in the public, that our city manager is retiring, had plans to retire in the spring. As a result of that, the city council hired Prothman and Associates to do the recruitment process. And a couple of weeks ago, I asked the city council, in light of the present city manager's leave of absence, if you were interested in moving the process forward. I did get consensus from the council to do just that. What you have before you, as was sent out as a supplement to the agenda, is a revised schedule calling for the application process and the recruitment process to be moved forward. The key date, as you can see on there, I think is the January 3rd is when we would start advertising. And that's, I think, 6 weeks earlier than the previous schedule. I'd like to get the city council's consensus to move forward consistent with this date. The date is, I've been talking to Sonia Prothman, who is our contact at Prothman Associates, and she thinks this is a very doable schedule. The key being, I think I shared with you all previous, is that she felt very strong that we should not bother advertising until after the first of the year. And you can't get much earlier than after the first of the year than January 3rd. So any questions on the part of the city council on this issue? Councilor Long.
Yeah, so I'm in favor of moving the date up, but I did have some questions about stakeholder interviews. Are city councilors all participating in that? Because we haven't
Yes.
met as a group to talk about what we want in a city manager.
Well, we can meet as a group with Ms. Prothman, or we can meet individually, or both.
Well, personally, I think it would be nice to meet as a group, because I think we should have some kind of discussion about it rather than just, it's better. I think we'll get to deeper issues, and I think we'll have better from bouncing off each other ideas, and it'll probably spark some additional ideas. And I just would like to see as many city councilors who want to be involved in this.
I was counting on all city councilors to be involved, whether it be individually interviews or as a group. I'm totally fine with the group. I think it's a great idea. Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
I would second Councilor Long's thoughts on this, Mr. Mayor. If we move up, and I'm in favor of accelerating our recruitment schedule, it might behoove us to have a work session in December even.
Right. Yeah, I would, Councilor Long, since you were the one who brought it up, and any others, if we do meet with them as a group, I'd like to see it a separate work session, if you will, than a regular city council meeting, since we only have one more anyway on December 13th before the first of the year.
I thought maybe that was that week of December 6th at the top there, 6th through 10th. I thought maybe that's when that was happening.
6th through the 10th, that's correct. Okay. That's a Monday through Friday. Yeah. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Councilor McLaughlin.
I'm in favor of moving up the date, and I will make myself available to participate.
Okay, anybody else? I would ask that any councilor that has a conflict on any of those days, December 6th through the 10th, please contact me as soon as possible, hopefully by tomorrow. And then I will in turn call Ms. Prothman and schedule a group meeting with the city council and her for sometime during that, during the week of September the 6th.
December.
What did I say? September?
September.
Oh, December. Sorry about that.
I do need more time before Christmas, but maybe not that much.
That's two mistakes I made tonight. Thank you.
Not
Councilor
wise.
Runyon. Councilor Runyon.
Just a reminder that if we do have a work session, that's a public meeting, and we need to have the, the right time frame in order to notify the public and so forth, if you wish to do it that way.
Right. I'm sure our city clerk would be on top of that. Mr. Kara, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I just wanted to echo what Councilor Runyon just said, and also to inform the council that if any deliberations are contemplated for the chief executive officer position of the city, which is what the city manager is, that is a topic that has been authorized for discussion in executive session. And so if the need arises, I just wanted the council to be informed.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions?
On that or in general?
That's a question for Mr. Kara?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, on this issue, are there any more questions or comments? Okay, I think I have direction to proceed from here. So I'll thank you all very much for your input. Is there any other business to come before the city council tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Runyon.
Yes, Councilor Runyon.
I was just, I noted, that we had omitted our city attorney from the agenda tonight, and I just wonder if, just a moment here, I'll shut that off. I also did not see a consent calendar on there. Did we not have minutes and so forth, or did I miss that? It's not on the agenda.
And I was just not able to prepare the minutes from the last meeting in the quick turnaround that I generally do. I needed to do some research and listen to the tape and such.
I totally appreciate that. I just thought maybe we should announce why it's not on there, because there's probably some who value seeing those minutes. All right,
They'll
thank
be
you.
on the next agenda.
Yeah.
And
Very
we don't have the city attorney's spot on the agenda unless he requests it and feels he has big stuff to tell you.
No, we won't ask you anymore, Jonathan, then. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe that the November 8th minutes obviously involve the Google water agreement. I'm sure there's a lot of testimony in that regard. So we'll look forward to seeing the November 8th minutes at the December 13th meeting.
Thank you.
December. Okay, any other questions or comments or any other business? With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.